Hey everyone, welcome back to Empower Autism. My name is Joseph Shade. I'm a behavior analyst who has been in the autism field for over 10 years. Our goal here at Empower Autism is just to provide parents with information about autism, about ABA therapy, in whatever ways we can really help. And today we're going to be talking about bullying. We're going to be talking about sexual victimization in autism. And these are very tense areas, I understand, but it's really important that we are aware of these areas, and it's really important that we know how to combat these areas. So we're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about ways that we can promote self-advocacy and self-reporting in individuals with autism to kind of combat these areas of bullying, to combat these areas of sexual victimization. Right. So right now, I just want to kind of give some statistics on bullying and sexual victimization and autism, and we'll proceed from there on what are our best options in teaching individuals how to overcome these areas. So I'm just going to look a lot at my notes just because I don't want to miss any of these statistics. I don't want to misquote anything. But Trundle et al. 2022 showed that individuals with autism were at a much higher rate of victimization as compared to the neurotypical population. So they're at a much higher rate for bullying. They're at a much higher rate for sexual harassment, sexual assault, things like that. Individuals with autism often become victims because they do not have the skills to communicate what is happening to them. They are sometimes afraid to communicate what is happening to them. And sometimes, even when they are able, when they do have the skills, people do not take them as seriously when they are communicating that they have been wronged, that something has happened to them. And that is a major problem in itself. We always must listen to our child, to our student, whoever it may be, about their concerns, no matter what their abilities are. So that was Trundle et al. 2022. Very high rates of victimization in individuals with autism. So when it comes to bullying, over 60% of children and young adults with autism have experienced bullying. And this is from Autism Speaks. That's over 60%. That is such a large number. And I could imagine that it is even higher than that, to be honest. That is such a large number. They also show that high schoolers are the most likely category to be bullied. Again, these individuals stand out and makes them an easy target, and they don't have that ability sometimes to communicate what the problem is, what is happening to them. They don't know who to turn to. They don't know how to turn to parents, to teachers, to administrators for help. So they face this bullying, right? And this is not just, this is surely just not on the individual. This is on everyone. Everybody needs to be aware of this. Everybody needs to put their best foot forward in stopping this victimization. So moving on to sexual victimization. Autistic youth are 3 to 4 times more likely to experience sexual victimization as compared to a neurotypical population. 3 to 4 times more likely. 40 to 50% of adults with autism reported that they had been sexually abused at some point in their life. These are just staggering, very, very unfortunate numbers, right? Again, they are easy targets. They become victims because people perceive them as easy targets, that they're not going to tell anybody, or they can't tell anybody what is happening to them. So this is a major problem, honestly. And we're talking about 60% bullying, 4 to 5 times more likely to be sexually abused. These numbers might not even incorporate the full scale of things, because there's no way to get the perspective of somebody that has profound autism, right? To get that perspective of somebody that can't communicate what has happened to them at all. So these numbers may be totally skewed low, which is insane to me, right? That we're already at 60% bullying, 4 to 5 times more likely to be sexually victimized. And it still might be a low number, because we cannot get We cannot take a poll up from somebody who has profound autism, and that's 25% of the autism population has profound autism. So 25% has profound autism are unable to communicate what has happened to them or what might have happened to them. And I don't want to be here to scare anybody. I don't want to be here that your child is definitely going to be bullied or abused, because that's just totally not true. But it's just so important that we are aware that it is a possibility, and we do everything we can in our power to protect these children, to protect our children, to protect our students, um, and to listen to them when they try and communicate something. It is just so important. All right, so now that we're aware of this, as parents, as teachers, as therapists, what can we do on our own before we even go into teaching about self advocacy, about self reporting to that individual? What can we do to help? We know that we can be outreach into the community. We know we can provide information. We know we can talk to teachers, to school administrators about our concerns, about how they should be prepared, right? I'm sure that they know, but let's continue to push that information, continue to push that you want them to be aware of their child, what is happening with them when they're not in your sight, when they are at school, when they're at camp, when they're on the school bus, right? We want to know what is happening. So we're always going to push information. We're always going to look out for our child. We're always going to ask others who we trust to look out for our child. We also want to be aware of the symptoms or the possible symptoms of sexual abuse, right? So I'm just going to read some possible symptoms that we can be aware of if you see these in your child. So it could be nightmares and sleep difficulties. We could see an increase in withdrawn behavior in that individual. We could see changes in stimming, self injurious behavior, aggressions. If we see overtly sexual behavior, that is a major sign that they have been exposed to some type of abuse. We could see changes in eating habits, and we could see failures to get dressed in situations such as at home or before gym class or things like that. And again, these are difficult to follow, right? The things we're talking about here are already symptoms of autism, right? Sleep difficulties, withdrawn behavior, changes in stimming, self injury, aggression, right? These are already symptoms of autism. But what we're looking for here is changes. Something is not normal, something is not the same with your child, something has changed. That's really what we're looking for. That's what we're focusing on here. And if you see these changes in behavior patterns, again, that's not to say that your child is being abused or they're being bullied or anything like that. It's just it's somewhere where to begin, where you might have to continue investigating, right? Make sure there are no problems with your child. Inquire with your child if they are able to communicate in that manner. Again, not all these things are not to scare people, that these percentages, yes, they're high. And yes, we see these behaviors already in autism, but they're not to scare parents or teachers. They're just to provide awareness that these things do happen, and we need to prevent it first of all, but we also need to act on it if something does happen. So those are our statistics. That's what we should do on our own. But now, so my area as a behavior analyst is to teach individuals with autism how to self advocate and how to self report. So if something does happen, right, they are being bullied in school, they are able to seek the assistance of somebody, they are able to do something about it, right? And these aren't easy skills to teach, they're very difficult because communication is so strained in this population. So let's just break it down now into a couple parts. The first, if your child is has a lot of ability, if your child is a strong communicator, uh, if your child is in a typical classroom, let's just talk about that first, and then we'll move on to if your child has more difficulties, possibly profound autism, possibly just more difficulties with communications. So if your child is in that typical classroom and they have a lot of abilities, a lot of strengths, to me, the gold standard in ABA for this population is behavioral skills training. And behavioral skills training can be broken down into four different parts: it's instruction, modeling, rehearsal, and feedback. And this is something you can do with your child. You do not need an ABA therapist there. You can do it on your own to help your child. So, in behavioral skills training, first step, instruction, right? We are going to provide instruction on what to do if that child is being bullied. We're going to provide instruction on what to do if that child gets sexually victimized. Um, so when we're providing instruction, we want to be very detailed. We might have to give a ton of examples, right? Somebody comes up to you in the playground, Johnny, and they push you on the shoulder. That is a problem, right? So what do we have to do? We have to stand up for ourselves. We have to say, don't do that. We also have to go seek a teacher. We have to go seek somebody for help, right? I'm going to provide this instruction. What do I do in all these scenarios? If somebody comes up to me and so if somebody comes up to you and laughs at you or makes fun of you, points at you and says something about how you speak or what you're doing, now I'm going to provide instruction on what that child should do in those instances. And again, we might have to do a million different scenarios, including sexual victimization, right? If somebody comes up to you and touches you inappropriately in an area of your body that you shouldn't be touched, what happens, right? Now I'm providing instruction on what that individual should do. The second part of behavioral skills training is modeling. So you and your spouse, your partner, your behavior therapist can model this for your child. So walk up to me in the park and push me and show your child what I do then as a self advocate, as a self reporter, what I can do then to protect myself. Right. So this is modeling. You're modeling for that child. All they're doing is watching. You can even use YouTube videos. You can use anything you want to just model for that individual. You can video yourself and the behavior therapist doing something so that your child can watch that. The third part is rehearsing. So now that you modeled for your child, you provided instruction, you modeled it. Now you're going to rehearse, right? This is what we do. We're in the playground right now, and I come up and I push you. What are you going to do? Let me see. Come on. What are you doing? I could see I see you're wearing a Scooby Doo shirt. You're 15 years old. What are you doing? Right? That's now we're rehearsing with that individual what he should do at that point, what she should do at that point. Um, if bullying occurs, if sexual victimization occurs. And then the fourth part is providing feedback. You want to be really positive and provide reinforcement when they do great jobs in rehearsal, right? That was awesome. I love how you went to go find a teacher. You went to go tell somebody what was happening. That is fantastic. I love that. So good. Great job. We could also provide constructive criticism, right? You know, what else could you do here? You could have you could have told him to stop doing that to you. You could have told him to leave you alone. You could have sought out a friend for help. You could have sought out a peer, right? We're providing feedback. And this is something that we can continually work on. It's not something that just needs to be done in this time period. It needs to be done quickly. Always do behavioral skills training, right? If you come up with new scenarios in your head, provide them to your child. Provide instruction, provide a model so your child knows what to do, provide rehearsal so we actually practice these strategies, and provide feedback. Did you do well? Are there areas that need improvement? And this is going to be the same thing for sexual victimization, right? As a behavior therapist, this becomes a little more complicated for me. I need to incorporate parents, caregivers all the time to make this a little bit uh, easier to accomplish. Um, but in behavioral skills training, provide the instruction, right? This is not the time to be coy. This is not the time to be bashful. We need to be serious about sexual victimization, and we need to seriously teach these children exactly what will happen. We cannot be abstract, we cannot be arbitrary. We need to be detailed and exactly. If somebody comes up to you and touches you in your privates, if somebody comes up to you and touches you on your chest, what are we doing? Right? We have to go through instruction, very clear instruction. We have to go through modeling, right? We have to go through rehearsal with that student. Again, if it's me, obviously, I you can't touch a child or anything in private, you need to incorporate a parent. You need to maybe just speak about it. If somebody touches you there, what are you going to do? If somebody touches you on your chest, what are you going to do? And then you're providing feedback. Great job. That's so fantastic. You immediately went to go seek somebody. You immediately screamed for help, right? These are all things that we need to provide feedback on. Again, behavioral skills training for individuals that have more communication skills, that have a lot of strengths that you might see more often in a classroom, a typical classroom. That's behavioral skills training. We have a lot more information on it, on behavioral skills training in general, at empowered-autism.com. You can check that out. But now let's talk about if your child has more difficulties, right? If your child has difficulties in communication, if they have difficulties interacting with others, if they have profound autism, right? This is a much more complicated issue than. The honest truth is, we don't know what the numbers are with profound autism, because those individuals cannot tell us if they've been bullied, if they've been sexually victimized. Bullying is probably less likely because they're most likely to be in a school that um, with non-typical peers. Sexual victimization is probably just as likely as a non-profound an individual with non-profound autism. Again, because they cannot communicate, because they cannot tell others what is happening, what is going on with them, what happened to them. So, how do we teach this in individuals with more difficulties? We need to make sure that they have the prerequisite skills, right, to tell what happened. So, what are some of these prerequisite skills? They need to be able to identify body parts. Can they identify nose, shoulder, toes, feet, chest, private parts? But can they identify all these body parts expressively, either through iPad, through textbook, through verbal communication, whatever it may be? Are they able to reliably identify these body parts? Number two, can they identify attributes? How does this feel, right? If we touch them with a tissue, that's soft. If I touch them with the edge of a knife, that's sharp. If I touch them with sandpaper, that's rough. If I touch them very gently, gentle versus hard, pushing hard. Sticky, if it were touching with scotch tape, right? Can they identify all these different attributes? Hard, gentle, soft, sharp, things like that. Next, can they identify people? Who is this? This is Joe. This is mom. This is dad. This is the bus driver. This is your teacher. This is your OT. This is your SLP. This is your PT. This is your ABA therapist, right? There's a ton of people that they need to be able to identify, people, especially people that they are going to be spending time alone with, right? You want them to be able to identify these people. And then lastly, did someone touch you? And this is a simple yes or no. But they need to be able to identify that uh, as time passes, right? Did somebody touch you 2 seconds ago versus did somebody touch you 2 hours ago are very different things. So we might have to start very slowly as I'm touching you. Did someone touch you? Yes. Great job. Fantastic. Then we build up our time. I touch, wait 2 seconds. Did someone touch you? Yes. Amazing. Fantastic. Uh, Ready? I touch your head. I touch the student's head. 5 seconds passes. Did someone touch you? Yes. And as they start to improve in this, we start to expand the amount of time, right? And then we start to put everything together, right? I do this. Did someone touch you? Yes. Who touched you? Joe. Fantastic. So good. Where did they touch you? Nose. Excellent. So good. How did it feel? Gentle, soft. If I use the tissue, if I use scotch tape, whatever it may be, right? They need to be able to incorporate now all four of these prerequisite skills into together, right? So that they can provide all the information on what happened. And this skill, totality and skill of self advocacy, self reporting, is certainly not going to be learned overnight for this individual. This is going to take time. You should start teaching this as soon as possible. Body parts should already be started to be taught anyway in school. Identifying people should be started to get taught anyway. Attributes sometimes aren't taught, and we need to teach those. Did someone touch you? Typically not taught. So we need to begin to teach these, right? And then we need to be able to put these all together, and there needs to be able to have a time frame in between, an hour, 2 hours. Did someone touch you? Yes. Where did they touch you? Private. Who touched you? Teacher, whatever it may be. And this is where data is key, right? If especially if you have an ABA program going on, you need to be taking data because it's an ABA program. You 100% should be taking data no matter what. But you need to be taking data on all of these prerequisites, body parts, attributes, identifying people. Did someone touch you? Because we need to be able to show that data if this ever went to court. If your person was a victim of sexual abuse and this ever went to court, we need to show that without a doubt, this person who has severe autism is able to identify people, is able to say if they were touched, is able to say how they were touched, is able to say where they were touched, where they were touched. If we wanted to hold up in court, we need to be able to show that data. We need to be able to show that your child is able to do that. And if your child is ever reporting something to you, I recommend that you videotape that so that it can be shown in court from when that person self-reported to you. Again, there are so many steps here, and this is going to take so much time, especially for individuals with severe autism. Um, And if your child doesn't have severe autism and is using behavior skills training, make sure that they have these prerequisite skills too, right? Can they identify body parts, attributes? Did someone touch you? Who touched you? Right? We need all those prerequisite skills, even if they do not have profound autism or still have a strong ability to communicate. We need those prerequisite skills. And again, this is not the final solution to self advocacy and self reporting. These are ways that I have incorporated in practice of trying to teach these things. Behavioral skills training for sure has been shown as a great self-advocacy, great self-reporting strategy for individuals with a lot of ability. And then working through these prerequisite skills and teaching through discrete trial or however in vivo training that we can teach individuals with more difficulties to self-report, to self-advocate. And if people have more suggestions, I would please love to hear them in the comments how you teach these skills. I would love to hear about them. But please, this is not here to scare parents. It's not here to say that they will be a victim of sexual abuse or bullying, because there is more awareness out there now. So hopefully these numbers start to decline, and that is our main goal. But it's just to have children prepared to self-advocate, to self-report. So I have a lot more videos for helping parents, more information on autism. Please like, comment, subscribe. Visit us at empower-autism.com. Visit us on other social media sites. But hopefully I'll see you soon.